Is that a mic too?
That's a microphone for my camera.
Well, I recognize I work for a company that distributes microphones and speakers and things like that. I'm seeing this fluffy thing and I'm going, okay, that's kind of a windscreen for the microphone. So I've never seen a square one.
Yeah, those are wireless and they work good.
This day and age, it makes
Yeah, yeah.
just you never know where you're going to be.
I don't know how. I mean, this will work. I just want to make sure that I have something close that will help pick it up a little bit better. And I'll be listening to make sure.
Hey, won 3 in a row now, right? No. Yeah, 3 in a row. After we lost 5.
We should. It's the best.
I like how you call we, like you guys are on the
Well, we as fans.
He goes, well, we're gonna do this. Like, well, what are you gonna do? I don't have to argue that. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, after getting swept by the Reds.
It's nice to come to the
What's your
desert.
name again?
Brett Lawrence.
Okay, Brett. Oh, Brett
Shirley?
Lawrence. Oh, yeah.
How are you, Shirley?
So good to see you guys. Boy, what a small
Gotta make a
world.
Yeah,
an appearance.
Yes,
We're all together.
yes. Yes, I'm so glad you did. Amazing.
Yeah, I saw Jim.
Yeah.
I finally made it back from Hawaii because I was there for like 20 years.
Oh, yeah. Where are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
Whereabouts?
on Oahu.
Yeah.
Where all the work's at. Went over for a job and just didn't have the good enough sense to come back. So I sold everything and just stayed there.
Yeah, but it's a nice area.
What's
Very
You're gonna be
I
stuck.
was just gonna say very expensive and very crowded. A lot cheaper here.
Yeah. Well, our mom lived on the Big Island.
Oh, okay.
And then lately when we go, we like Hawaii.
Oh yeah. You know, I just did some work over there a few months ago. Kauai's real low key and nice.
Yeah.
And then the Big Islands. I've never been to the Big Island. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got everything. And Maui's nice. Yeah, we like Maui.
Yeah, Maui's okay until it burned, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We were at the hotel, the Hyatt, right above where they burned.
Oh wow. Okay.
When we went, and that was like how many years ago? Before the burn.
Because the burn was just, you know, this year. Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because August 8th, because I was flying out that night. I was actually flying out the night that that fire happened, coming over here for a quick visit and get some things. Yeah, so. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay, that's okay. You should, you know, rest yourself.
You spent some time on each one.
Yeah, but Lyle has a cousin that lives on the Big Island.
Oh, okay.
What have you been up
So
to?
did you stay on the Big Island and
Well, I
take
was
day
semi-
trips?
No, actually, yes, actually we did. And they, we did day
So I've
trips.
been here for 42 years.
Yeah.
So, but now it's time to, you know, I'm fixing up my house too, actually, where I grew up.
Oh,
I'm back there with my brother. And it's kind of
Might as well be down here in Santa
helping
Monica somewhere.
That's good.
Yeah, getting kind of back up to speed, I guess.
So
And
we
livable.
did
Yes.
we stayed there.
But yeah, just
We didn't have any
And
reservations,
I've got a
so
daughter in Colorado.
we could
And
go
then
up wherever
two
we
grandkids.
wanted to.
So that's, and to be closer to them, that was the reason to come back. I was actually ready to come back to California in 2019, all ready to go. But then COVID.
We had
And it's just like,
reservations
okay,
for
well,
first night,
I'll
one
just
night,
stick it out
and
here
that was on the
and not worry about
and
it.
then why the
Because it just everything sucks, you know.
Yeah,
That's just how it
exactly.
was.
Yeah.
It's lifestyle,
we
you know.
just
So, but I still made several trips during COVID.
and just
It was kind of nice.
you
The
know,
airplane.
and we didn't.
Well,
and we
right,
stayed
yeah.
there. We were
Yeah,
there
that
for
would be a good time to fly.
It was, and I had a friend who worked for Delta who always hooked me up with first class or business class.
Oh, that's
So it was good. Yes, it was pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
couldn't complain. Couldn't complain.
Hey, Mr. Musselman.
Ed,
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm there.
There you go. You're here.
He's here.
Hey, Lyle.
Upright.
That's good. I'm upright. I'm upright. Barely at times.
Well, actually,
Okay.
it's
Try that,
debatable.
Jim. Or try that, Ed. Size.
Yeah.
Oh. What's the latest? Still in the Bear Valley or whatever?
I was just telling them we went to Hawaii when we retired.
Trying to remember what day it is. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if it's Monday or Wednesday or
Yeah,
We
you
had
tell
no
me.
reservations.
You retired from the WB.
from Edison. Yeah.
Edison.
Stay
Yeah,
wherever
4
we
years ago.
wanted.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we did all the islands, and he has a cousin that lives in Hawaii.
You know, I'm surprised after being over there for so many years, all the connections, West Coast especially. Oh yeah, I was in Hawaii for a while. I was on that island, worked there, did this, did that. So it's like I didn't even know. I did run into some
Wildflowers up here, Dave. See, we can all
I ran into some people from SoCal MC.
Looks like my yard.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, that's not you.
I opened the front door and looked out. Reminisce. That is a long time ago though.
How nice.
Yeah, it was alright.
So, how you doing?
I just stay busy working.
My daughter has a friend that's pure Hawaiian,
Okay.
you know, and he's contacts me.
Okay, yeah.
And I guess, where's Tommy work? Is he away on the Big Island? I mean, on,
He's on, I think he's on Oahu mostly. But he's
most every, I mean, all the work's on the water. 90%. So, but I mean, the other islands are just nice and slow and quiet, but still all expensive. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my daughter went over there. She and her husband went over there last summer. Yeah.
It's expensive. You gotta want to love it. So I don't want to be there. So you gotta like their weather. So you can't beat the weather. I'm glad to be back in Southern California. Lyle, do you remember me?
I don't.
Brett Howell.
Oh yeah, okay. I haven't seen you for 100 years.
At least 100 years.
You weren't this bald or this gray like me, you know.
Right. I used to be tall like you too, until they kicked the crap out of me over there, all the locals, you know. So,
They had to bring you down to their side.
I think so. And just time out, guys, time out. So, but, yeah, no,
My Debbie is 61, I think, or something. So she grew up really young.
Oh yeah.
chase the geese.
So you went with them.
James, where are we gonna sit?
I'll probably end up standing, I would imagine.
Okay. Oh yeah. That's right. I'm still young. I can stand for a while.
Whippersnapper.
Yeah.
I keep telling myself that. Yeah.
Look at this kid chasing that poor duck.
I was like, seriously?
Until that thing turns around and says, okay.
Starts chasing him.
I guess it's a goose. I don't think it's a goose.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
No, it's a duck. No, I don't know. It looks like a dolphin. They can be nasty.
Oh.
Yeah.
They spit at you. Yeah, I know. I've seen them chase
They're mean. So I can't.
Kind of like ex-girlfriends and wives.
Robert Bob Leroy Perkins. Pueblo, Colorado. Born in Pueblo, Colorado.
I went to Van Nuys. He went to Van Nuys High too, Bob. Bob?
This is Ed.
Ed, excuse me. Hey, he went to Van Nuys High too.
Remember, we're older.
He went to Van Nuys High too.
I didn't know that either. I guess it makes sense though.
Yeah. He graduated in.
And he played the trumpet.
Yeah, he graduated in 83. No, in
The Romans Car Club. You remember them in Van Nuys? Romans?
played the trumpet at Van Nuys.
Vice President of Freemasons.
I didn't see what year they did.
This is the nice places on the hill.
Actually, he was on to North LA, I think. Yes. He knew Lebo, Lebo knew him. He knew, we were Lebo. My dad's buddy. He was kind of the big
That's it.
We did at our last
That's
reunion.
very possible.
Yeah. They were too high and they were low.
Tried parachute jump on square dancing in the fall.
Well, yeah, but they were just too much.
I tried.
You got your name down here in print, but you know, I got to cross that out and put Roger down. Put Roger down.
One of my sons was Eric.
There's more people I
You know,
don't
he's
know.
got 3 kids and they all live.
Far. Howdy. You may.
just walking over here, I walked on a piece of dirt, and that be careful when you're walking around. I almost fell. And I started, my sister caught myself. You gotta be careful.
He's one of the, listed as one of the pallbearers, but he had to get his son to take his spot, believe me.
Danny used to work for my husband.
Don't cross that way.
Yeah, when I met him. Didn't have to be there. He had red hair.
Yeah, I remember. I remember people working with that. I remember when he bought one of his old Triumphs. He ride it and scratch it about every third.
That's a dangerous hobby.
3 times in my life.
Well, it's fun. I'd do it all over again, I'll tell you that.
Well, when he moved to Fort
So on my way down, I
I
did that when I was going down on my trailer.
don't know,
And I started
than I do
going
know
down,
here.
and I didn't know it was on my knees. Because they're the worst part. So I took care of myself because I was going down, but I couldn't do anything else.
You remember when he was still riding motorcycles? He would go off on some
This other
He would entertain me with his hijinks when he got back. But he's still riding.
Oh, yeah. Well, there comes a time when it's not tough to ride twice, get on the start.
Yeah, no.
We both rode quite a bit, he and I, and
Good memories. Yeah, that's what me and my husband had in common. They were both I remember when he had a dog named Lucy.
and I kept saying, fine. I didn't think,
Just my preference.
I don't know, there were times when I was doing yourself. Yeah, I remember when Jeanette and I were in Hawaii, we were in the bathtub. She was in the bathtub. I was in the bathtub, not we. I was in the bathtub. And my knees are so bad. So I finally got a cushion because the sofa's in the living room. In the bathtub, so I could
Yes, I've met these two. These two guys.
Wild. You know, it takes me a minute. Actually, you guys need to talk, and then I recognize your faces.
How you doing, Sri?
Well, the tub was drained.
Sandy.
Well, Sandy.
Right?
Yeah, I
almost went over. These chairs, I feel like I'm going that way. I'm gonna end up at the couch on my lap. Get up here.
I'll go flying into her.
But don't hang. And I was very lucky to be the recipient of some of the great ideas.
Oh, yeah.
I think I still have some in the freezer.
They're twins.
Actually, I think they were
It's hard, and if I'm going for a gym and just, I don't know what I would have done. Because Richard's been gone now for 18 years.
Actually, Maryland's a 22.
My husband's name was Richard.
There we go.
What's that?
I never even knew this place existed.
I was a fireman friend of mine.
Sponsors of the Twin TLC. We have been lots of years of yes. And you ended up together.
We're gonna try to censor it and make them straight, okay? Kind of carve it out.
We've been together the whole time. Oh, well, geographically, we've been.
Be careful not to trip, Sandy.
Little tricky part. You guys are gonna now knit the way you are and then put them on here in the middle, the buttons that you're sharing.
Are you ready? On the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Dan brought it. Wanted everyone to have a cigar.
It fits.
Yep.
Danny's
Everybody good?
love or something have the
Everybody ready?
happy that way.
You guys are a little heavy for that portable board.
So it is diagonal.
Here we go with it. Back
Well,
to
you've
the
done a good job to make it this far.
You got clearance up there?
Purpose, which
We got lots of space back
you
here.
sort of have a goal and a purpose. It's going to be.
And you're good at getting your ducks in a row.
Yes, and it's good. Thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Oh yeah, I want you up there. Brian too. Where's Ryan? He's there. Where's Ryan? He's up there.
Well, thank you all for being here. That's it. That's the end of the session.
There you go.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Please, thank you.
Good to see you. Haven't seen you since
Oh, it's been a while.
Turns out.
When you want.
Sandy, you're gonna go first.
Jimmy also.
All right, everybody, just remember one thing. My dad was always, he never wanted anybody to grieve or to mourn. So this is a celebration. Now there will be some tears, but they're tears of joy because of the time we got to spend with them. Okay? Sandy, Perkins.
Listen to your own words there, brother.
I know.
Oh, okay. Okay. I wanted to welcome everyone here today and thank you for all showing up to celebrate the life of Bob in person and virtually, so that those that couldn't be here were able to watch live streaming. I must have revised what I wanted to say a half a dozen times, trying to come up with something that would say what Bob was, who we were together. 50 years condensing it down is kind of tough sometimes. So besides that, Bob was the talker. I mean, he could easily do 10,000 plus words a day, and you hand him a microphone and it would be 20,000. So for me, this is not my norm, but I will try and get through it. Before we were married, we spent most of our weekends in the desert racing motorcycles. When we decided to get married, Bob handed me the race calendar for that year and said, let's find a date that's open. Couldn't have a race on it or any other function. So September 29th, 1973 was our wedding date. Little did I know that our first anniversary would be at the races with him busy with an event as president of the Shamrock Motorcycle Club. And it sort of went that way throughout our marriage. There are so many things I'm going to miss about Bob and being married to him. But the thing I really miss the most are his hugs. Sometimes I'd walk up to him and just say, I need a hug. Fold my arms up and put his arms around me, and I just feel so warm, safe, and loved. So I remember that. I just won't have it anymore. I love you, Bob, and I miss you with all my heart. I kept wondering if I should end with, I wish I could wake up. Every once in a while, I just think I'm asleep and I'm going to wake up. But I do know, we all move forward. We all do what we have to get through it. So, and thank you for all being here. I do appreciate it. Candy? And Brian?
Yeah. You okay?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Oh, yeah. I think so.
I got all your goodies if you want it, but I
You don't have to.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. Your presence here, showing your love, support, appreciation, and memories of our dad and grandpa, Bob Perkins, means a lot. Again, thank you. And I'm like Sandy, I'm a little shaky on all this. Okay, to preface this, I wrote this when me and Danny and Sandy finally settled on the date to lay my dad to rest. It was just a conversation in my mind with my dad. And this is what I wrote. Hey, Dad, first we're going to make sure you're comfortable. There might be some tears, and I can hear you saying, what are you crying about? I'm good, I'm right here. When does the party start? We will say, hello, we're getting to it. Here's your martini and cigar. Then we're going to celebrate you, your life, and all the things that made you, you. Stop rolling your eyes, Dad. Just sip on your martini, take a slow draw on that fine cigar, smile and enjoy. We love you, Dad, and always will. Cheers. And then when I started writing this, some memories came to me, so I added them as well. My early memories with my dad include Easter egg hunts in my grandma and grandpa's backyard, trying to find the most well-hidden egg that had $5, $20 in it. Remember you mentioned, yeah. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was a lot of money back then. Masonic Lodge picnics, complete with potato sack races, egg tosses, and all the other silly yet wonderful of family fun. I remember standing on my dad's feet while he showed me how to dance at a Masonic Lodge dinner and dance. As time marched on, the desert became our playground. I remember riding in the bed of Dad's ranchero in a sleeping bag with a pillow, sandwiched between Dad and Danny's motorcycles. It was the perfect spot. We would head out before the sun up, and it was so cool to watch the sunrise with the wind in my hair on our way to a weekend adventure. In a dune buggy was where Dad taught me how to drive a stick shift. Well, not exactly. If you really knew my dad, he wasn't very long on patience. And then I wrote laugh out loud. I kept popping the clutch and stalling out. It was actually Sandy that taught me how to drive a stick shift. Dad did teach me, however, to ride a motorcycle. What a thrill that was. He made sure I could kick it over and pick it up. He told me, Puddin', I need to know in case you go down, you'll be able to get back to camp. And so the love of motorcycles is in my blood. My dad taught me to respect my elders, be true to your word, that family comes first. Blood is thicker than water, and you always take care of and look out for each other. And lastly, I'm sorry, my eyes are blurry. Hold on. And lastly, the gift of gab. We Perkins peeps can talk your ear off and make a short story long. I know you will always be with us, Dad, so this isn't goodbye. It's till we meet again. Love you. Okay.
Casey?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I brought some little ones too. Oh, thank you.
So I sat down to write this, and I thought it would be real brief, but according to our family history, I too can go on and on and on. So then I thought, hell, you get one funeral, you know? Let's really do it upright, so be patient. They say the need for speed, the desire to go fast, the curiosity inside oneself to see what happens when you twist that throttle just a little more. They say you are born with this. It's perhaps passed down from prior thrill seekers in your family lineage. Genetic, inescapable. You're screwed from the start. God bless my Grandpa Bob. I have a feeling his genes predisposed my family to have a desire to live life a little on the edge, and I'm sure glad they did. I can't look at you, Dad. My dad had 3 girls, though. He wanted boys so badly. He's probably told you. I think that men who want to raise boys do so because they had a really great father. But rest assured, there would come a good plot twist down the road. He'd get his turn in a different way. See, for as long as I can remember, every story my dad ever told of his pops, and you know my dad with stories, there were many and they were long, they revolved around the desert and going racing. We'd be on our way to the river or the mountains as a family, loaded down, 3 girls in the Suburban, my mom in the front seat. And out of the middle of nowhere, there was just dirt and cactus all around. My dad would point to a ridge and say, "See that trail right up there?" He'd say, "Me, Dad, Willie Shipley, Steve Crash, and Tommy Center, we're on our way to a race." When we pulled over right there, I'd tune the rest out. But the stories always seemed to finish with, when Dad was driving us home from the desert, he had a cocktail between his legs and 2 wheels, or 2 hands on the wheel. My sisters and I would perk up here. A cocktail while driving? And my dad would say, "These were different times, girls." As a young girl with no interest in desert racing whatsoever, these seemingly endless stories didn't appeal to me much at the time, but they were the soundtrack to our childhood nonetheless. One of my favorites, though, is the story of my dad finishing his first Check Chase River run in 1970, dead last. But he finished. He'll tell you the long version of this story with many more details, but I'll give you the Cliff's Notes. It goes something like this. He's 14 years old. The race was 191 miles long. All mothers are baffled by this, I know. Legend says he beat Grandpa Bob to the first pit. He wanted me to make sure that was known. It's damn near sundown. They were going to close the finish line because my dad was still nowhere to be found, and they were losing light. My Grandpa Bob said, "Don't you close that finish line. I'll go find him." He hopped on his bike, and he rode a few miles from the finish and found my dad, just coming up over the ridge, wiping tears from his eyes. He was beat. He was defeated. He wanted to give up. My dad says he saw my Grandpa Bob waving him to the finish, and it's the only thing he needed to keep going. He finished that race with his hands stuck from gripping the throttle so tight for so long. The checkers showered him with beer like he won the whole damn thing. My Grandpa Bob handed my dad, a 14-year-old, an ice-cold beer and told him, "Son, go." He pointed to the river, and my dad ran into that river, fully geared up, and drank his first beer ever. Allegedly. Then that girl who didn't care about desert racing or any of these old stories gave birth to 2 boys, afflicted with the same genes passed down from my grandpa and my dad. They want to do everything fast. Apparently I do too, because I hit Monty on the way in. Push boundaries, go faster, bigger, higher. Add in a stuntman for a father, and now I was screwed. That girl who couldn't care less about desert racing now has a poster-sized picture of my dad racing that exact Check Chase River run hanging in my living room. It sits next to a poster-sized shot of my Grandpa Bob racing, along with an equal-sized shot of both of my sons at their first race. I didn't think this was going to be like this. I practiced and I didn't cry. And my heart is so full every time I look at all of them. I remember the day my dad bought my son Waylon his first motorcycle, a blue PW50. And my son, thank you.
You're welcome.
Western still rides to this day. We ripped the hell out of that thing, didn't we, Dad? We only blew it up once. We surprised the boys that day and brought them to the motorcycle shop to meet my dad to pick up the bike. My dad surprised me by bringing my Grandpa Bob. The boys were excited, but my dad and Grandpa were thrilled. They were like two kids on Christmas morning staring at this tiny little machine they were never gonna ride, with sparkles in their eyes and the biggest smiles on their faces. They had that look I've learned all grown men who have tasted speed at some point in their lives get when they see anything with two wheels. There they were, an 83-year-old man and a 65-year-old man, father and son standing side by side in Simi Valley, California. Both, I can be loud.
You could probably keep going anyway. You'll be just fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we gotcha.
Both never wanting to really grow up, knowing these kids are about to have their first real taste of true freedom. It was a good day. Not long after that, Waylon raced his first desert Grand Prix ever. Fittingly, it was the Shamrock Grand Prix in Prim, Nevada. My pops was there. Check.
This one's working, but that one's.
Oh, okay. Should I get closer to this guy then?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Thank you. It was the Shamrock Grand Prix in Prim, Nevada. My pops was there. My grandpa flagged the race. And Waylon, he smoked them. Now there were three giddy adults wanting to go fast and never wanting to grow up, running to the finish line to give our little guy his trophy. It was another really good day. A day of family and traditions being passed down. Full circle moments. I think I fell in love with desert racing that day too. It was one of those days where we all realized how lucky we were. Not many girls I know can say that their great-grandpa and dad flagged their son's first ever GP for the club they grew up racing with. And he won the damn thing. I asked Waylon after that if he wanted to play soccer. He looked at me like I was a lunatic and he said, no way. I asked him why not. He might really like a nice team sport with just a ball and shin guards. Mom wouldn't have to load the truck with tons of gear and bikes and mix that damn gas. There would be no long drives to the races. He looked at me with 5-year-old eyes, big giant blue saucers, and said, Mom, when I ride my dirt bike and I'm all alone out there, I feel free. Well, we never did play soccer. Thanks, Grandpa Bob. I'm almost done, I promise. I read this book once called Heaven is for Real. It's about a young boy who passed away and was brought back to life. He details his brief visit to heaven in the book and realizes he met his grandpa, whom he never met in person while in heaven. He only realizes it was his grandpa after recognizing a family photo of him as a young man. The boy says in heaven his grandpa was young and happy and vibrant, even though he was old and frail when he passed. He says that's how heaven is for everyone. Whether you believe in heaven or not, believe in a God of any kind, you can't help but smile at this thought. Because now when I think of my Grandpa Bob up in heaven, I think of him as a young man, surrounded by his friends that have passed before him. They're at the races, around a campfire, under the stars, telling stories. There's martinis, cigars, laughter, and they're excited because tomorrow they'll all throw a leg over a bike. I think it's a triumph. And they'll chase that checkered flag once again. The conditions are perfect, the sun is shining, and my Grandpa Bob, like Waylon, feels free. I know I may be biased, but when it comes to living, perhaps the greatest gift one can leave behind is your legacy. I know without question my Grandpa Bob and Grandma Penny and Grandma Sandy raised the best man I've ever known, the best. Kind, patient, hardworking, fun, resilient, wise, fair, a man of his word, and a little mischievous. I hope a little bit of that magic has rubbed off onto me so I can raise two incredible men too. My grandpa taught me how popping up a chair next to your dad in the middle of the desert while starting up a motorcycle is one of the great gifts in this life. And he was right. That's a hell of a legacy to leave behind, if you ask me, and I'm honored to be a small part of it. Now I'm done.
How's everybody doing so far? Is it too hot out there?
Dan, that's one hell of a cigar.
It is.
Okay, I first met Bob 1958, late 58 or 59, at a little restaurant in Van Nuys. He worked in his dad's print shop just down the street, and I worked around the corner at Sam's U Drive. And how we ever got together, I don't know. But somehow we touched base, and both of us raced motorcycles. He belonged to North LA at the time, and I was a Shamrock. So we met several times, during the racing season, and we got closer and closer and became very good friends. And the best thing I ever did for the Shamrocks was introduce Bob to the club. And it certainly paid off. Bob, I miss you. He introduced me to my wife, became my best man. We were very close all through those years. And I don't know. I'm glad you're all here. It's an honor for Bob, and I certainly appreciate it, and I know Sandy does, and Dan. So thank you for being here, and that's my little story.
Wow, were you going to get up? No? Good? Okay. Anybody else want to say anything?
Johnny Bells.
Huh?
Johnny Bells.
Johnny Bell?
Right here.
Sir.
Well, hello, everybody. My name's John Dybus, but they call me Johnny Bills, and you really don't want to know that. I met Bob on a 10-day fishing trip. We were all hanging out at Bob Sands, Sal's shop down in the valley, and I didn't know squat. And Bob turned me on to a lot of neat little things, some things I can't repeat, but other than that, we had a lot of fun. But one thing with Bob, unfortunately, Bob was the brunt of a lot of jokes at the shop because he was the oldest guy in the place. And everybody likes to pick on old people. Now I'm the oldest guy in the shop, and I'm getting the rest of it. But I got to tell you a couple quick stories. One of the trips, a 10 or 11-day trip, we're out looking for the big tuna. And the second day out, there's always a giveaway. Swag. You get fishing rods or reels or lures or whatever, and it's a raffle. So everybody puts your numbers in this hat, and we have somebody, innocent person, draw them out of the hat, and we give away these gifts. So we're going through the whole bit, and we had it set up where the guy that was pulling numbers had Bob's number tucked away in his palm. And so we're getting down to it, and we're going to give away this rod. Well, what we had done, well, first I'll tell you what happened. So they go there and they're rattling around in there, and they pull out this number. Oh my God, Bob Perkins, you win. He said, what do I win? And they brought out this rod, this beautiful custom wrapped fishing rod, which they're pretty expensive little items, right? But what we had done was sneak out and grab one of Bob's brand new rods, brought it in, and waxed it up really nice and clean and everything, And we gave it to Bob, and Bob goes, oh my God, oh my God, it's even in my own colors, you know? And the whole place is hysterical, you know? And he goes, I said, yeah, Bob, it's even got your name on it. And then he caught on to the trick. Well, Bob would get it at the shop. He would get it. He was always really great with it. He would laugh, and he'd pull his little pranks. He pulled the ultimate prank ever, and it happened to be on me. And I don't know why. I'm always the innocent guy. I never did nothing wrong to that man. He was my friend. I would never do anything wrong to him. But so a friend of mine, Al Yee, and I are going on another 11, 12-day trip. Al's about this tall. So we're checking in the morning. And we go up there and they go, John Dibus. And so I go up there to check in and pay my extra fees and whatever I'm going to pay. And they give you your room assignments and all the information you're going to need. And the girl, nice lady, this is like 5 o'clock in the morning. Lady goes, oh, you're John Dibus. I go, yeah, that's me. That's me. She says, I got something for you. And I immediately started cussing. I knew the prank was coming and I just didn't know what it was going to be. Out she comes out with this big, huge bouquet of flowers and a box of Godiva chocolates. And I read the card and it says, congratulations, John and Al. And the lady goes, do I need to notify the crew of something? Or do I have to change room assignments? And I, so I immediately started screaming. I called, Sal was up in the Sierras. I called him, you son of a... This went on. Every person I thought would do it, that had the nerve to do it, had the money to do it, couldn't find anybody. 2 years later, on a Saturday, I go in to help on Saturdays, teach kids knots and that sort of thing. And I'm sitting there, and Bob walks in, and he goes, yeah, this is for you. And he gives me a box of chocolates. And I go, what the hell is this for? It's not even Valentine's Day. You know, he goes, no, look at the box. Open up the box, and it's the receipt for the flowers. He let me stew for 2 years. I mean, I chased after everybody I even thought could have been that devious. But that's the best prank I've ever had pulled, and they got a big picture up there that goes, congratulations, John and Al in the shop. So, but we had a lot of fun. He taught me how to serve my wind-on leaders. He helped me build a wonderful kit that I can transport on and off the boat. If I had a question, Bob was always there. We had a lot of laughs. Oh, another quick one. When I first started fishing with Bob, he was like my uncle, you know, and got real close to him. And we're on the first long-range trip I've ever been on. And what was Bob's buddy's name?
Dick McConaughey.
Dick McConaughey. So they're on the boat, and Dick is dropping F-bombs on Bob and harassing Bob and not nice. And I went over to Sal. I said, that guy opens his mouth one more time, I'm going to whoop his ass. You know, he's picking on Bob. And he goes, that's Bob's best friend. It's his high school buddy. Not to mention, that guy would have probably whooped my ass. But anyway. But he was just a great guy. I loved him to death. We had a lot of fun. Even later on in the last months when he'd come in just briefly, we'd end up going in the back and shooting the bull for a while. Great guy, a lot of fun. I owe him a lot. He taught me a lot about fishing. Taught me a lot of bad stuff too, but that's okay. But anyway, thank you very much.
Anybody else want to say anything before? Okay. All right, kids, I'm going to try and make this. Well, what I'm going to do is basically, you guys, this is the eulogy. So it's about my dad. There'll be a story in there, but it's going to be about Dad. Kenny, why don't you take a seat? I saw you out there. So some of this may be a little bit of a repeat, and I apologize for that, but I have a captive audience, so I'm going to go with it. Okay, so again, what a beautiful day we have here to lay to rest the most important, thank you all for being here to lay to rest, and most importantly, to celebrate the life of Robert Leroy Perkins, our dad. Candy, there you are, sorry. Okay, Dad was born September 14th, 1937 in Pueblo, Colorado. Not long after that, they moved to Los Angeles and then settled into Van Nuys, California in a little pink house on Costello Avenue. Shortly after that, his brother Donnie was born. Dad had perfect attendance in school, played the trumpet, sang in the choir. He attended Van Nuys High School and joined the Romans Car Club, of which he kept in contact with his high school buddies for the rest of his life. Dad married right out of high school to Penny Perkins, and they had 2 children, my sister and I. Dad loved competition. He raced soapbox derby in his younger days. Then he found the love of motorcycles. He fibbed to his parents and bought his first race bike, an AJS 500, and joined the North LA MC Motorcycle Club in 1958. Then in 1960, as Ed said, he met Ed, and Ed Musselman, who is here, I was going to say, who is here today, by the way, which is along with Mr. Jim Lang and Lyle Taylor. Actually, there's a lot more Shamrocks showed up than I thought was going to. So all you Shamrocks, I thank you from the bottom. Steve Crash, I really appreciate it. Okay. And Ed mentioned that Dad was his best man. Well, Ed forgot to mention he was his best man 2 times. That's a real buddy right there, okay? Dad loved racing motorcycles more than anything except for Sandy. Dad and Sandy were married September 29th, 1973, and had 50 wonderful years together. Calm down, Dan. Whenever my dad would talk about Sandy, it was with such love and respect, and I always loved that. Dad became president of the Shamrocks 1973 and 74. Sandy became treasurer of the Shamrocks for way too many years. But love will do that, okay? Dad later became president of District 37 for 3 years, heavyweight steward for 2 years, West Coast representative for the district of the AMA Congress for 2 years. Then he served on the board of trustees for the AMA for 10 plus years. Dad loved motorcycle racing, and he loved the sport, and he loved everybody. He always wanted it to be better. Then came fishing. Dad and his friend from high school, Dick McConaughey, loved fishing. When Dad stepped away from motorcycle racing, he needed a new sport. Dick was already an avid sport fisherman, and Dad liked to fish, so all it took was 1 5-day trip, and Dad was hooked. Just like motorcycles, it became his passion. His garage, which had been a motorcycle shop, now became a tackle shop. Not only that, Dad was hanging around Bob Sands fish and tackle store so much, Sal just had to put him to work. Martini and cigars in the garage. For the last 7 years of my life, suck it up, cowboy. I got it. I got it. For the last 7 years of my life, I enjoyed every other Thursday afternoon indulging in a martini and a cigar, or 2, with my dad in his garage. And whenever I'd look at my watch because it was time to get home, he'd go, "Not yet, son," because he just wanted a little more time with me. Here's some lessons in life. All of you have heard these lessons before, but I heard them in the garage, so the first time I ever heard them was from my dad. Your word is your bond. Never break your word. Stand up straight, son. Shoulders back, don't slouch. When you walk, walk with a purpose. When you shake hands, make it a firm handshake. You can tell a lot about a man from his handshake, and always look him in the eye. You cannot lie to the man in the mirror, so always do your best. And this one's one of my favorites. Son, girls are not like boys. They're softer and should be handled as such, gently and with respect. Thank you for that one, Dad. It has served me well. Never judge a man unless you've been in his shoes. If you see a man down, help him up. Don't you ever disrespect your mother. Guilt by association. Thanks, buddy. You may not be a bad guy, but if you hang out with bad guys, you'll be labeled as one. Yeah, that one I didn't listen to. All of my bad guys are my best friends. Dad was funny when he was taken to the hospital. I walked into his room, and the first thing he said to me, he looked up at me and said, "Where's the tequila?" And I said, "Dad, you didn't tell me to bring tequila." And he looked at me and he says, "I thought I raised you better than this." Dad's last motorcycle that he bought, or that we bought, I know, was a Triumph 650. I don't know if Sandy knows this or not, so I'm going to go ahead and tell her. And that's just what I love, because this is motorcycle, guys, and like Casey was talking about, that gleam in the eye that we get. Dad wanted to buy this Triumph, and Sandy kind of like, what do you need another bike for? You know, you're 78 years old, blah, 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 everything else, but Dad wanted it, right? So I went over to his house because he was frustrated and he wanted the bike. So I turned around and I said, you want me to go in halves on it? And he said, yes. Would you? I said, yes, I would. So we went and bought the bike. We're bringing it back to the house, and I said, Dad, I got a soccer game to get to with the granddaughters. And I said, we got to clear out some stuff in that garage. And he puts his hand and he goes, oh, no, 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 son. This motorcycle is going to your house. Sandy didn't know I bought it. So I love that. He fibbed to his parents when he was 18, 17 years old when he started racing. Then he even fibbed to his own wife because he still wanted that spark in him, and he did. He would come over to our house on the holidays and he'd go, hey son, let's go out and look at that new Triumph you got. When all the while it was to go look at his. So that was that. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to leave you with a little prayer, and then this is over, people, okay? Then we can get to the restaurant and have a couple cocktails and some beers and some food. Dear Lord, thank you for giving us so much time here on earth with him. Please take care of this man. Show him all the great places to fish. Show him all the best riding trails that heaven has to offer. Let him laugh with his family and friends that have left before us. I know he will be watching over the rest of us. He taught us how to live here on earth. I pray that there are cigars and martinis so that when we get there, he can continue showing us how to live in heaven. Amen. Okay, so unless anybody else wants to get up and say anything, we're going to head over to Los Toros restaurant, Mexican restaurant. There's food and drink for everybody that wants to come. Please do. And there you can share stories if you want to. That's what's usually all the best part. And there's some great pictures of Dad growing up and with the motorcycle, with the Shamrocks and fishing and everything else. So really, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Or we, the family, appreciate it so much. Okay?
Good job.
I thought I did pretty good.
You did. You did awesome.
Very good.
It's hard to top Casey. You can't help it.
What did you do?
What do you think?
It came on.
Yeah. What do you think?
What did you do?
I didn't do. I turned it off and turned it back on.
I probably what I did because
Do
when
you think this was on or off?
it was on, but it was like this.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. So I think when it disconnected, it just needed to be reset. I thought about that, but I didn't do it.
Does that click in?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It happens.
Okay,
I'll handle all this. Yes. Thank you, sir. Yep.